he kind of broke down professional life into three different phases,
Hmm.
right? It was the learn phase, the earn phase, and then the legacy phase. And
Interesting.
I thought, I freaking love that.
Today's episode is brought to you by Andy Bovender out of the Carolinas. Him and his team have helped more than 5,000 families. So if you have a client who's been thinking about making a move to or from the Carolinas, they are the team to call. Today's guest is Wes Collins, and we talk about his journey within real estate. And what I actually found really interesting about it is his self-discovery of what was really working for him and what wasn't working for him, and what changes he made to get to a point in this business to not only bring him more success but more happiness and joy. So stay tuned for that. If you'd like to hang out with Wes and other amazing past guests of these episodes, take a look at the link below for the Inner Circle group. It's a group that meets pretty regularly, and we talk about best practices. We share ideas to grow our businesses. But the other cool thing is we build relationships for those referral opportunities. So if that's something you're looking for, again, scroll down and click the link below to join the waitlist. And with that shared, I am your host and San Francisco referral partner, Shawn Kunkler.
Wes, before we started recording, you said something pretty incredible that I want to just immediately jump into. You said this year has been the absolute best year that you've ever had, and you basically stopped doing a bunch of stuff. Let's jump in right from there.
Failed team lead. I used to have a team, thought that was the path, right? No one really knows. There's no like book on how to do this. I think everyone is pretty fluid early on in their career anyways. There's a lot of different sources, maybe podcasts, maybe books that you can read that kind of suggest different options. So I thought that was meant for me, was to guide other people. I come from a teaching background. I thought, let me just teach people to
Oh,
do what I
interesting.
do. And anyways, it didn't work. It didn't work for whatever reason. You can lead a horse to water, but couldn't quite get them into the production that I was at and I wanted them to be at. And so all my focus and energy went there, and it ended up not working the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And my production faltered as a result. And so anyways, I merged with a couple guys now with Clockwork Realty Group here at Compass.
Nice.
They really handle a lot of the day-to-day. And my goal is to serve people and to do my best kind of in that role, in that capacity. So yeah, I think, sort of being healthy, selfish has been a big part. And I think the numbers speak for themselves, testament to that.
For sure.
But yeah, been a huge blessing this year. I think also 10 years in,
Mm.
you definitely see a lot of people at that milestone, repeat business, and people coming back. As long as you're in flow, you're with your sphere. I think you treat people like people. Crazy stuff happens.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. You kind of glazed over a whole bunch of stuff that I definitely want to go unravel.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think there's different seasons, and to your point, in that 7 to 10 year is generally when you start getting the repeat clients because they're now upgrading homes, downgrading, buying a second home, investing in a property. They're starting to get to that next cusp, which then marketing, you really have to stay on top of marketing. I would say at year 3 to 4, if you're doing decent in the business, is when you start turning on the marketing, the relationship marketing specifically,
Yep.
and then it'll carry you in the year 7, 8, 9, 10. But let's rewind, because I think you said a couple interesting things, that you had a teaching background, and so it sounded like, and I'm just kind of putting words in your mouth, if you don't mind, and you can correct me, but
Sure.
it
Fire
sounded
away.
like you felt like, "Oh, I have a teaching background. I can teach and do this." Was that kind of and I'm having a certain level of success. I see everybody else growing team. Did you then was that kind of your mindset before you went down that path?
Yeah, I think so. Year 3, 4, I was around, I don't know, 15, 20 million. Year 4,
Mm,
5, like really, I felt pretty good, right? Doing 30, 40 units a year. I thought, man, like, hey, I could definitely help people get to this point. I think, always the goal is, hey, win-win relationships, right? How
mhm.
can I help other people around me win and grow in their business and help their families? And,
Yeah,
I thought, I read Ninja Selling. I implemented a whole lot of that. And I thought, man,
same.
I could definitely guide people to do what I do. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, I can't make people make the calls. I can't make people write the notes. I can't,
Yeah,
force them to do what they don't want to do if it's not natural for them either. And so, uh, yeah, that definitely ended up being, a point where I thought I had this trajectory to become a huge team lead and to,
yeah,
become a household name. Maybe not. I don't think that was really my goal, but I think it was to me, and it would be great to have this unified front under a banner that wasn't my name,
hmm, hmm,
Forex Property Group, and see if I could kind of lead them to the promised land, so to
yeah,
speak. But yeah, to try to teach them through that was definitely my goal. I thought I was pretty good at it,
yeah,
and ended up just fizzled out, just didn't work out the way that
yeah.
I had hoped. And so, yeah.
Hey, friends, I have a small favor to ask. For me to continue to bring you outstanding guests who share their best kept secrets for growing a successful real estate business, please take a moment and hit that like button so agents like you can find this content. And also hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Now, back to our show.
Yeah, man. I mean, I honor you for being so honest with yourself. I think it's so hard for us as agents. We have to put on this face, especially with our clients, that we're the resource. We will get the answer. And we carry a certain level of confidence to convey that to our clients. And then when we then reach another aspect of our business that we don't have that, it's really hard to put down that persona and be honest and observe, like, hey, this actually is not working over here. And I do not have the skill set, nor do I have any desire to acquire that skill set. And so I really need to just take a different path. And so that's a really hard, it's hard to have that realization. And yeah, again, like I genuinely honor you for it. Did you, when you were in that year 3 to 4, who was your first hire?
My first hire was a transaction coordinator.
Mhm.
I thought that was definitely
Very
the
normal.
move. I think that, I everyone kind of has that threshold, right? Of,
Yeah.
hey, I can do X amount of deals before this becomes a little overwhelming, or man, I'm kind of dropping balls here. And so I remember my first transaction coordinator, I set horrible expectations. I think in terms of what volume I was going to be sending her, saying, hey, I think maybe 3, 4 deals a month, right? And then that spring it blew up. And I think I
Right.
had, at one time, I don't know, 8, 10, maybe a dozen deals that
Oh,
just
geez.
I hammered her and she was not ready. We were kind of sharing, splitting between other agents and
Yeah.
it was as much on me as it was on her, right? I think we're all to some degree kind of control freaks. And so
Yeah.
to let go and let someone do it is one thing, but man, if they're not getting an intro email for 3 or 4 days, like that's a big problem too.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
And so that was the beginning of the end for us. But yeah, I think that was definitely the first hire. It was also the first fire, and from there I went back on my own again, and then at that point, did find someone a couple of years later to kind of fill those holes, and then similarly just needed someone to help focus on my own business, and she's been great. I've been with her now for, gosh, Stephanie, maybe 3, 4 years. She's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So.
It's interesting. My first hire also was a TC, and I fired probably 2 or 3 TCs because it wasn't to the standard that I wanted to, and unfortunately, because there were contracts, my parameters they're not an employee, so I couldn't manage them like an employee, and I was like, we're not aligned." And,
Yeah.
uh, and so I think, that's something that it was hard it still is hard for me, but fire fast. Like, train
Right.
them. Ooh, I y w it's hire the right skill and personality for the role, train them, and then if they're underperforming, let them go as fast as you can.
Right. Run.
Yeah, because it's gonna just it's funny, I feel like it's like any relationship. If the relationship is bad in the be it's like working with a client. If the client is really difficult and bad in the beginning, it's gonna be really bad in the middle, and it's gonna be horrible in the end. Just refer them out.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So I just fired sellers. Nice town home, good pocket, $1 million property. I got pictures done and I got them back and I sent it to them. Great photos, like good photos. I pretty good at what I do. Like I know when photos are good and when they're bad.
Yeah.
Got reamed out. Said these are horrible. This is embarrassing. If this is how you're gonna, serve us, then I said, wow. Let's just stop there. We're just
Yeah.
not a fit professionally. I think if you had a conversation and someone said, hey, look, this really isn't what we had in mind. Like, can we have let's talk about it. Let's be people.
Yeah.
We're humans first and let's figure this out. And there was none of that. It was just the blame game all over. And I was like, we're already pushing price as it is. This just isn't going to be a fit for us. And, that
Yeah.
property's still on the market and it will be for a while. And, those pictures look pretty similar to mine. And so
Hilarious, right?
clearly not a driver of success on that one, but yeah, I mean, you definitely have to be honest and run quick. And yeah, I mean, sure, the end sales price on that one and yeah, commission would be great, but at the end of the day, I don't need 4 to 6 months of just a absolute stressor in my life. I don't
Yeah.
care for it. And so
It's funny, I
so
had a couple years ago, I had a $2.5 million property. It was a trust sale. There were 6 siblings. One of them
nice.
was, like, the main decision maker, and then there was a bunch of others. So, really good price point, amazing commission,
Right.
and it was the worst experience I ever had in my entire life, and there were multiple points where I should have fired him, and I didn't, and lesson learned. Um, but there was one point we were on the market. They wouldn't listen to me on pricing. And this is when interest rates were climbing.
Okay.
Like literally every week, you'd blink and they would be up like a half a point, and you're like, "Oh my God." And
Yeah.
in equal and proportionate, the prices were coming down and they weren't listening to me. And basically all 6 people wanted to do 6 different things. And I just called up the main point person. I was like, "Hey man, you know what? I'm not your agent. Like, I really appreciate you. I enjoy working with you, but this is not gonna work for me. Like, let's basically call it wraps." And immediately, it changed the whole dynamics of the whole dynamics of the relationship, and it was actually great from that point forward.
It always makes me think of back to ninja selling, right? You go into that appointment and you say, "Hey, look, one of three things are going to happen, right? You guys are going to think I'm a fit, and you're going to think, hey, this is great,
Mhm.
and we work together." And you guys, for whatever reason, may not necessarily think I'm a fit, and that's okay too. Like I always am looking to improve, and certainly tell me why. And then the third option is like, I may not be able to help you achieve the goals that you want to have. And at that point, I may back away. And I think,
Yeah.
positioning and posturing yourself in that light Yes, so much of real estate, probably all of it, is just based on setting expectations, right?
100%.
To be successful, right? Whether that's through initial offers, whether that's through, you know, a repair request, whether that's through pricing. I mean, you
Yeah.
set appropriate expectations and you find success. If you don't, then yeah, you're toast.
There's a really good book. It's called Pitch Anything.
Okay.
And it's really good for teaching the psychology of like framing and reframing and I don't always love his specific approach. But there's a lot of really powerful tools in there. And in psychology, when there's a takeaway, it and this is a marketing strategy that everybody uses, but when you become the takeaway, it makes the thing more desirable. It makes you more desirable. It basically spins it on their head. Whereas, like, if you go to the listing and they're the prize and you're doting over them, they're holding all the cards. But if you, to your point, in that latter part, if you spin it where I'm interviewing you to see if we're a good fit, tell me about your last transaction and tell me about a negative experience you had with your last transaction. I would love to hear how you approach it to see if we're a good fit. And it flips it on their head in their mind where you're interviewing them, they're not interviewing you.
I like that. I like that.
Um,
Sharp.
but we do it too. We do it naturally within a sale, right? We create a time frame. We're calling for offers tomorrow at noon. We create pressure and competition. Hey, I'm expecting 3 other offers. That's a form of a takeaway. Um, Lots of brands do it. Rolex. You cannot walk into a Rolex store and buy a Rolex. It does not happen. Most of the time, the cases are half empty anyways because they literally are sold out. And then you put yourself on a wait list and you wait 2 years if you're lucky.
Right.
Like those are all forms of takeaway where that brand is then the prize. It's so coveted now. But is it the best watch out there with the newest technology? No, it's absolutely not.
No, I mean, I like that. I think we all try to do that through our own systems and processes,
For sure.
right? This is who I am. This is what we do, and this is how we find success. We want this to be so just dialed and second nature. It's like clockwork, right? That's why we are who we are with Clockwork Realty Group. But yeah, it's definitely, yeah. Again, expectations are everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
100%. I feel like it's funny. People always think that our negotiation, like the negotiation that we do is with the buyer and seller. It's not. And there's millions of micro negotiations with both parties the whole time where you're helping your client see things as the way they actually are. And those are all forms of a negotiation.
Yeah. Now it's I mean, even at the very beginning, that's a good point.
I'm curious so you went from TC as your first hire. Who was your second hire?
I ended up having an agent, kind of like a buyer agent, uh, less of a hey, I'm going to feed you leads, more of a mentorship model,
Mhm.
and like showing agent really was like the big thing for me.
Yeah.
I was buyer heavy, and Charlotte as a whole, right? I mean, we have a pretty big market, um, and so you're talking about 25 miles in any direction, right? I mean, I can't always get and be here and also be here. And so to have
Sure.
someone to kind of be an extension of me, expectations, right? Is, hey, look, I'm the point of contact, but there's some times where I just can't get there. And in that instance, like, I don't want to be the reason that you don't get a house, right? I don't want to be the reason that you can't get there. I mean, especially you think about COVID, right? As quickly as things were going,
Yeah.
look, I definitely can't get there all the time. If I've got 40 buyers I'm working with this year, that's, I'm going to need some help. And so
Yeah.
that was it. I still have a guy that's with me. He has his own book of business, but he is a huge help, covering for me. Heading out of town next week. I know, hey, I'm good to go. I think you can structure that in a lot of different ways too. If there's people that are listening and they're trying to figure out, hey, I'm kind of here. Where do I go to get to that next step? I think that's a really important person, whether you partner with someone, whether it's more of a back scratching, hey, you get me this time, I'll get you next time. Or maybe they get a small split of every transaction. I think there's a lot of different ways to
Yeah.
kind of do that, or you just pay a per showing hourly rate. I've literally done it all. So I think
Yeah.
that was a really big one for me.
Yeah, I think, you make a great point is, like, first really understand what the problem is, what the need that you're trying to actually fill, and then just be creative. You can just find somebody in your office who you like the way they approach it, you like their personality, you like their attitude. It's like, "Hey, if I call on you last minute," and then you come up with some payment structure of like, "I'll give you $50 a showing, I'll give you a percentage of the and like, come up with something, um, that makes them happy, and then you guys are good to go. Like, yeah, I think to, again, to go back to creating all these formal teams and things like that, you don't always have to. Like, there's an agent in San Diego just crushing it, and she has a TC and 3 virtual assistants, and the one virtual assistant manages the other 2. And so I think the beauty in all of this is there's no wrong way, there's no right way, there's your way, and if that's working, then that's the right way.
There's definitely a lot of trial and error involved.
For sure.
I mean,
That is
in
true.
any way, right? There's definitely, I mean, even in our office, there's people that just with them and an assistant, I mean, they are just toning it.
Yeah.
And so, there's plenty of folks that, I think ultimately there's a certain point where if you want to grow to a certain degree, you need help.
Yeah.
I mean, I would dispute that with anybody. And I
Yeah.
don't think really I'd get much pushback on that, but I think it's just
Yeah.
how you want that help. And then, yeah, I
Yeah.
think you kind of stick with what you're good at. There's some team leads that they just do the consults, and, once they're the consults, then someone else is running with the entire thing. And so I just, a lot of different structures. But yeah, this is definitely, I think, where I'm meant to be, and how I'm meant to be in terms of a day-to-day life work balance.
It's funny, that's where I've evolved to, is I have a business partner who's a licensed agent, and I'll secure the listing, go on the appointment, and then once I get it, she's immediately the one who runs with it, and then I'm the face with the client. I'm the one having the hard conversations and presenting offers, but all the technical back end, the disclosures, the appointments, the showings, I'm 100% hands off on all of that. But we have like a deep level of communication. So I know on any one of our properties right now, I know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, who's doing it, who the vendor is. And so but to your point, it's taken me a lot of years to figure that out, and then it's taken me and her a good year to kind of iron it out, is to kind of continue to refine it and refine as the business evolves and change and the clients and the whole 9 yards. Um, but I think the ultimate formula is with any agent is figure out what it is you wanna do in terms of production. How do you define success? And then what's your job description? And then once you write your job description, write down all the stuff you just suck at, hate doing, and will never want to do, and then find the person to do that.
100%. Yeah. I mean, write it out for sure.
Yes.
It's like a combo platter of a couple books. I think about, Buy Back Your Time, right? Dan Martell is a really good one. And then like Who Not How, right, is another one
That one's
where
great.
it is like, hey, let me just throw these things into a bucket that I don't want to do and create this hybrid role. Let me focus on what I'm good at, what I would, and maybe, I mean, yeah, what you're good at, but also like what you want to do, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty of this job, that we strangely have been all like just found our way to in real estate. I mean, you just look at all the different buckets that people come from and land into real estate. But, what do you want to do, right? Do you want to be in front of people? Do you want to be, in that capacity? Or maybe, you want to be the partner, right? I mean, it's kind of another one. People are going to think I'm a big reader, where I'm not, but like rocket fuel is another one where it's like you've got sort of the dreamer and then you've got the implementer.
Yep.
And so you really have these two types of personalities where one person is you're probably like you, right? You're kind of the dreamer in this capacity. You're the one that
Big time.
is doing these things, but in terms of like crunching the numbers, doing the things to get and propel that dreamer to where they need to be, there's the implementer. And so I think I think on our team right now, there's three of us as kind of team leads, principal agents, and one of us is definitely an implementer. I would say one is kind of a hybrid of both, and then um, I probably am more in the dreamer phase
Mm.
myself. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man. It's, Steve Jobs would not have been Steve Jobs without Wozniak, and
yep,
Wozniak would not have been Wozniak without Jobs. Like, and to your
100%.
point, like, they're completely different people, mindsets, approach. They think completely differently, but they marry together and just it's rocket fuel. I mean,
Yep.
clearly, they created a multi-billion-dollar brand, and so but again, most people, you can create that by reflecting on it and really just where does your passion lie? When you get up early and you're excited, what is that thing that you're excited about? And really contemplating those pieces, I feel are just super important. But I feel like and especially from these conversations, and I've had so many agents just call me, i- is we get, it's similar to any sales role. Any sales role that I've ever been in, you have a top performing salesperson, immediately they bump them to management. And it's the dumbest logic. It's like you have this sharpshooter who can close anybody and you put him in management because there's a weird implied that they're a good manager and a good teacher. Like that
Make it make sense.
there's nothing about that makes sense. And it's the dumbest. It's so dumb to me. It's just it's one of those like things. It's like, really, you guys, no one is actually like stepping back and thinking about this.
No, no, no. Yeah, no, no. I, I mean, and that's interesting because there's definitely, I mean, we have awesome managers here at our brokerage,
Yeah.
and I mean, you can tell they're like built for it, right? Like their mind is, I mean, I would be way too blunt. I would be
Same.
far too impatient and yeah, just the honesty with half of these issues that pop up for them. I'd be like, what are you freaking thinking? And they are just so even keel and cool and
Yeah.
great at what they do. And that is not me either. So yeah, I feel like we get okay, and at least at our brokerage, right? Where those are separate hires and those aren't necessarily lateral
Yeah.
shifts or movements. But yeah, you're right. I mean, most of those sales roles, hey, this guy's great. Let's make everyone else like him and or her and shift them into a management position. And it's like, yeah, no, pass. I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
out.
it's a weird I remember years ago, I ran a martial arts school, and the lead instructor said, and it was one of those things, like, I heard it in my 20s, and then I never really connected the dots until years later, but he's like, "There are some, phenomenal martial artists who are terrible teachers, and there's some phenomenal teachers who are horrible martial artists," and he's like, "My goal is to get you to be great in both categories." And it's like the same thing. It's it's I mean, what is there's like a scientific term, the causation, something to that effect, where it's like A plus B doesn't automatically imply it doesn't like automatically create this other thing just because you think it does. Um, but to your point earlier is having the self-reflection, having the honest conversation with yourself, really doing some discovery of, hey, I really find joy in doing this thing. I really am not good in this thing. I don't find joy in it. I don't want to develop the skills in it. Let me just go get the help to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's definitely, that's the setup we have now,
Yeah.
right? We've got,
Smart. I'm jealous. It's a good
we've got
setup.
someone that helps from first contact to contract, and then from contract to close, and then basically, closing and beyond. And so,
Nice.
it's nice to kind of break it up in that capacity. It works well for us and lets us focus on, you know, sure, transactionally, but also just continuing to grow and build the business and just stay in touch, stay in flow. But yeah, it's like I said, I mean, year 10 and I'm finally here. It took a long time to figure out what that breakdown was like and was going to be like. So
And I guarantee if you and I sat down 10 years from now, it's all going to look different anyways. Like your definition of success is going to evolve. Your lifestyle is going to evolve. Things are going to change. It's just the nature of humans.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's even like people, and just relationships in general, right? I mean, you're changing every couple, I mean, you're just hitting these new benchmarks and these new, just different parts of you and continuing to evolve. Your business does the same thing. So yeah, it's, what a wild ride.
Dude, it is such a wild ride. I think for me, the most, I, I think for me, the thing that the dreamer side of me is there's no limit. You can build this thing however you want. Like I'm able to do a podcast within my business, within the marketing category, because that's what I'm passionate about and that's what I find joy doing. And so there's literally you could do whatever you want as long as you got the funds to throw at it. There's any way you can slice the pie, you can slice it.
100%. Well, yeah, if I had hair like you, man, I would do the same thing. So I think it works well for you, brother.
Oh man, I just saw, it's funny. You know how I have an iPhone and you know how it does like the carousel of photos?
Yeah.
I had a photo from like a few years ago. My hair was brown. I was like, when the hell did this happen?
Yeah, I'd still take the gray, man, but that's okay. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. It's all good. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice.
It's true. I definitely wear my fair share of hats. What are you looking forward to most in your business?
Um, that's a great question. It's interesting. I met up with a guy, gosh, maybe a year or two ago now, and he had this great little nugget that he shared with me where he kind of broke down professional life into three different phases,
Hmm,
right? It was the learn phase, the earn phase, and then the legacy phase. And
interesting.
I thought, I freaking love that. You're really spending your professional first couple of years, and even now. I mean, gosh, I'm not saying in any capacity that I'm not learning, but you are learning for that first batch of your professional life. For me, it was customer service, it was teaching, it was, going through just the general rigmarole of real estate. And now I feel like I'm in this earn phase of real estate where my goal is to do that, right? It is to earn, it is to continue to grow. And, financially speaking, um, probably process too, but I am truly here to earn right now in terms of what
Ooh,
I'm doing. And then, I think, and if I do this for the next 3 to 5 years, am I then going to, shift into this legacy mindset, where, hey, I've got 3 kids, right? Part of what I do on a day to day, like my goal in real estate is to be present for all of their stuff, to be
Yeah.
present for them, to be present. I mean, that, 'cause that's way
Good.
more important. Like this is a job, right? And I think that helps provide for them and the life that I want to live. But
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like I don't want it to be my identifier. I want people to ask me, how the kids are, not like how the market is. Like I don't care how the market is, right? I mean, whatever. We'll figure it out. If you need like real questions, then we can talk about it. But yeah, ask me about my family,
Yeah.
Um, and but I think the legacy phase to build something that provides for them down the line, to be able to give back to the community down the line. I think there's a really cool element of legacy that is now starting in the back of my mind to creep forward to the front of, hey, how do we build this moving forward? But yeah, learn, earn, legacy has been a really kind of cool mantra here over the last couple of years for me,
Hmm.
and I think we'll continue. But yeah, I mean, I think you know even just take a look at that in terms of real estate, right? I mean, you are not earning your first year, in most situations,
Yeah,
right? I
you're
mean,
just eating shit left and right your first
I
year.
mean, by the spoonful. Like it is just,
It's so
it is horrific. It is horrific. I got lucky my first year, and I was humming, and then I wasn't, because
Yeah.
I learned that, even though I'm overwhelmed with these 8 transactions from January to August, I'm still supposed to be in touch with people. Like they just don't come to me. And
Yeah.
so I had a nice dry spell of like 6 months where I'm like, holy Lord, like this is going to be a wild ride. And so, yeah, I mean, you definitely go and you learn that. And then,
Yeah.
eventually I think you kind of said, right, years 3, 4, really 4, 5, once you kind of beat the math on, a lot of the people that fall out of our business, then I feel like you're really in that earn phase. And,
Mhm.
for me, maybe it took a little bit longer. But I think you kind of keep propelling yourself, to where you want to be there. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun one. It's a
That's
fun
such a
one.
good I love that. I actually wrote it down, is the learn, earn, legacy. And you're right. Like there's you definitely go through phases. And within that, like there's very natural phases of the industry. Like your first year is really it's just tough because you're literally you everything is starting from zero. So everything I remember I can't even remember how many times I said to my manager, I feel like I'm just drinking from a fire hose. Just every day is and we're a contract to close state, no attorneys. So I'm like trying to learn contracts and what they what they mean and what things connect to what can I say, what can I not say. I'm trying to understand inspection, it's like just gobs of information, and that's not even writing your first offer, and then
Right.
it's like a whole new layer of stress and chaos. And so, yeah, the first year sucks. It's brutal. But then to your point, you get to another level, and I've hit it a few times. You get super busy, and then you stop doing the things that made you super busy. And then all of a sudden,
Always.
it just stops. And you're just like, what just happened? Where'd everything go? And then you go back to do those things that work. And then you go back to being busy, and then you stop doing those. And it's like this stupid ping pong. And that takes a while to learn and figure out how to smooth that out.
It's a
Yeah.
vicious cycle, really. It and and then eventually you figure it out, and I think now my mind is like, come on, you idiot! Like, do what you're supposed to do, Like, what are you doing? Like, just why are you watching the U.S. tank in the Ryder Cup right now? Like, make some calls, update your people, and
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's you don't know what you don't know. And so you definitely, especially, and we're the same way, if you're contract to close state, we're writing everything up, we're doing everything on our end. And, I definitely like that. Especially
Same.
when I hear about the alternative, that sounds horrible. Condolences to probably most of my friends up in the Northeast, but yeah, it's, it does take, it's quite a journey, and that's for
Yeah.
sure. So
Dude,
glad you're
I
there.
am, it's high stakes, high reward of contract to close. I mean, we're San Francisco Bay Area is one of the most litigious places in real estate in the US. And so you really have to slow down and ask questions and make sure that you're appointing your clients to attorneys when the time and timing is right. But my first deal in the city was I was only 4 months in, and I met somebody at an open house who had cash. They wrote a $3.7 million offer, and we closed in 5 days. And so the
Dear Lord.
benefit of having the contract to close is that paycheck really fast. And then it was like, oh, this is easy. And then all the ping pongs dropped, and I was like, this is hard.
Yeah. It's something, isn't it?
Yeah. And then just to your point, but then it's like you kind of, it's like if I remember hearing years ago, if you liken a business to a human, and it's a human as they grow up, they go through different developmental stages. And then, you have like adolescence, the learning phase, and then you have, 16 plus, that's the earning. You're starting to figure stuff out, but you're still a little cocky and you think you know it all. And then you get humbled in your 20s. And it's like you go through these phases, and then you can see it. Like there's businesses that they're in their twilight and they no longer learn, they no longer adapt, and then they just, like Sears. It's like Sears was the biggest company in the US at one point, and now no one talks about them ever, except randomly on a podcast. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting when you kind of step back and you look at it from that perspective, and then additionally at yourself. That's the part that, like, all of this that we're talking about this is the stuff that keeps me juiced, because it's an ever evolving puzzle that all these things are just constantly changing. The clients are changing. Their psychology is all different. The products are different, the properties, everything is, there's never anything that's static or standard. That's what always gets me juiced. And then doing these podcasts, it's wild. Like, I sit down with agents who are crushing it, and nobody's doing all the stuff the same. And it's just, that's a really cool, it's always been a very cool aspect of it.
Yeah, I go in assuming I know nothing, and I never want to get to the point where I just feel like I'm, I know it all. I think that's when it gets dangerous, for sure. But yeah, it isn't. I mean, everyone has kind of a different way. Everyone has a different way that they operate. They do their thing, and yeah, I definitely, humility is pretty easy to find, at least in our office. I mean, there's mega teams that crush it, and man, they're awesome. And so, you think you're doing great, and you just gotta keep your eyes open a little bit, and you'll realize someone else is doing better. So, it's nice fuel, nice motivation. I'm pretty competitive in that way. So,
yeah, same. I definitely get juiced when I see somebody who's doing really well. And more so too, I get curious. It's like, well, what are they doing? Like, I think it's easy to slip into the mindset of like, oh, screw them. Like, oh, they're lying, they're cheating, they're stealing to get there. But then there's the other side of like, oh, dude, that's awesome. Applaud them. What are they doing? How can I?
Oh, for sure.
Like, I would much rather be the smallest fish in the biggest pond, so I can just learn from everybody.
Fly with the Eagles, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the comparison mindset is a scary thing. But I think if you avoid that, and you applaud their success, right? I'm more amazed. Like, I'm not jealous. I'm like, dang, like that's unreal. Like,
Yeah.
I need to kick it into high gear. I need to get going,
Yeah.
because I am best year ever. Great. Like, who cares? Move on. There's someone tripling me, right? It's like, okay, it's time to go. Time to go.
Yeah, which I think I think it's such a healthier mindset. Like, yeah. And it's often overlooked. I think we don't I mean, the reality is, even in your own market, the likelihood and the frequency that you're actually competing with your colleagues is pretty low. Like, if you actually do the math, like, how often are you? And the funny thing is, you're not only competing with them, you don't usually even know who you're competing against. If you write an offer on a property and you're representing a buyer and there's two other offers, you don't even know who the competition is. And so that's moot point. Like, there's no point in viewing your colleagues as competition. And then if you're going to a listing appointment, you may learn of them. But again, the frequency that you're competing against them is super low. And so I don't know, man. I mean, that was a shift for me when I started looking at all these colleagues in my immediate market as an opportunity for me to grow or to give my clients an opportunity because of these relationships I had. That's when my business really started to excel forward.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I feel like maybe on the list side, there's definitely some pockets, here in Charlotte that there's a handful of us that are in. But yeah, I mean, it's so. I mean, unless you're doing some crazy marketing, you know, wide scale, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're really, especially the first couple years, like you're sphere based, like through and through, and so my mind goes to the listing side, but yeah, even on the buy side, you're right. It's blind, so it is
Yeah.
interesting.
And I've partnered with agents that I was competing against. I've straight up just said to the client, hey, what if you're considering me and them, what if we worked together, we took all of the best parts and worked to help you sell your home faster?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not above that. I think, gosh, there's a handful of folks, probably more than that, a couple handfuls. I'd love to work with. I know I had a gal reach out to me. We do a good bit of concierge type
Same.
projects. So, hey, we're gonna do paint floors and upfit this home in preparation. And one agent had never done it before, and she said, hey, would you just work this transaction with me? I said, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Like, whatever. We'll show you the ropes and let's see how it goes. And it was great. It was awesome. So yeah, I think it gives a great experience to the seller and to the client, most importantly, and it looks good for us that we're, it's bigger than us, right? And it's about them, not about us. And yeah, I don't need to be prideful about, what number of transactions I'm hitting.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll take half.
I mean, I would rather a piece of a watermelon than all of a grape
Yep. Yeah.
and gamble losing it.
Yeah. 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 And 50% is definitely more than zero. So,
And it's funny,
pretty
you
easy math.
reminded me when I was in my learning phase, I heard a lot of like, oh, you need systems, you need a checklist, you need a process. And I got my first listing, or I was going for my first listing, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know the order to do things. I don't know the checklist. I got nothing. And so I remember going to my manager and was like, hey, if you can give me 3 of the most organized agents in the office, who are they? And she rattled off 3 names, and there was a woman's name who popped up, and I was like, oh, I've enjoyed connecting with her. She's been super helpful. Let me go to her. And I went to her and I was like, hey, I have a listing opportunity. I'd love to pull you in. I will give you half, but I would love to use your list because I don't have any and I need your organization. She's like, no problem. And that's how I built my first list, by leveraging somebody else's knowledge and experience. And again, like, I would happily pay that tuition of 50% over and over and over for that, how much I was able to gain from that
For
as
sure.
quickly as I did. Because it became like a mentorship, because she was now vested in my success in selling this because that's how she got paid. And so she was an open book, and I have an amazing relationship with that person to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to the early part. If you just step back and think outside of the box, there's so many ways to crack the nut. So many ways.
Absolutely, man. That's yeah, no, it is awesome. It is awesome.
Yeah. What book are you reading right now that you're really engaged with?
So I just read Shoe Dog, actually.
Okay.
Phil Knight, and talks about Nike, the journey of that company. Um, it was actually given to me by a mortgage broker, which I thought was a interesting way to, I tend to dabble in the shoe ways. I wear some sneaks and some J's from time to time,
Oh yeah.
and so he took note of that and sent me that book. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good book. Unbelievable just to see like how that company was founded. You
Yeah.
talk about the learn phase for Phil. It seems we kind of have a theme to keep going back to those three words, but I mean, definitely like he had no freaking idea what he was doing. And to see that growth, I mean, I won't spoil much of it, but I mean, I had no idea that, back in the day it was just Adidas and Puma, right? Like I just never really thought about it and kind of assumed, right, that Nike was this, just staple forever, and clearly they were not. And so yeah, it just really goes through his entire growth process, how he built the company, and now of course being where it is today. And he's obviously backed away, but it's in its legacy. But he has built one of the pillars of I would say retail in general,
Hmm.
sales in general. And yeah, definitely wasn't without some trials and tribulations. But
Lots of them. Yeah.
yeah, it was unreal. Have you read that?
I haven't. I saw the movie. Um,
Okay. On the Jordans. Yeah.
yeah, on the and specifically on the Jordans. Um, it's funny. I had Rory on the podcast. We did a recording yesterday.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if you know this, but he's actually pretty big into sneakers too.
Okay.
So
No, I didn't.
we randomly were talking about it. My son is such a sneakerhead. It's kind of crazy, which it kind of trickled down. My youngest is now into them.
Okay.
Everybody's got Jordans in the house, basically.
It's man, yeah, it's Shoe Dog's sick. I mean, I would read the book because the Jordan approach with Air, right,
Yeah.
is awesome. To see how like that morphed, and obviously MJ is just caking it on that front. But to see like even at the very beginning, what he was building and selling, and yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I made a deal with myself. It took me 8 years to sell my first $1 million property. I got close a couple of times, like 995, and just I could never like break that barrier, with our
Yeah.
market. And then when I started, I was 25, like 25-year-old people, at least that I knew, they weren't buying $1 million homes in Charlotte.
It's
And
true.
so,
Yeah.
I anyways, I made a deal with myself and said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy a pair of Jordans for every $1 million home I sell.
Hell yeah.
And I, hit year was 7 or 8, whatever it was when I got them. And then I kept selling them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, I'm going to have too many, I'm going to have too many pairs of shoes here pretty soon. So I had to stop. But yeah, I went down a rabbit hole there for
Yeah.
a while. Maybe that was my COVID, my COVID splurge was, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to get into that. Some people got into bourbon. Some people got into, I guess, shoes. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
It,
good. It was good.
it's funny. Mine, when I started closing, I started buying custom suits. And then there was
Okay.
a point where I had to stop because I was like, this is kind of getting out of control. Um, but then off air, I'll tell you what I just bought because we have 5 escrows open and they're all pretty healthy. So I'll tell you
Let's
off
go.
air what I bought,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty stoked about. Here's a random fun fact for you. Nike's first sponsored athlete is Ron, who is a marathon runner. and he lives directly across the street from me.
Really?
Yeah.
They reference him in the book.
Are you kidding?
Oh, they talk all. Yeah, let me see. Well, what's his last name?
Gosh,
I'll take a look. We'll figure it out. But I'm almost
I'm
positive.
blanking on his last name.
Yeah, I mean, because they talk about how everything that they did was based around running and based around these marathon runners, these Olympic
100%.
runners. Because that was his background. That's what Phil used to do
Yeah.
too. Obviously their special relationship with Oregon, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was, yeah. You need to read it. It's awesome. I wonder if he does the audiobook.
It's
That'd be
funny.
pretty
Additionally, the record holder for the fastest mile in the U.S. lives like 2 streets over. It's like weird. Like it's like a little like running pocket. But Ron is like, I don't know. He's probably 70s ish, and I see him. I walk my dog all the time. I see him all the time going for runs, all the time.
That's crazy.
Still, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dude, this was really fun. I appreciate you carving out the time to do this, but unfortunately we're at the top of the hour, so that's a wrap, my friend.
100%, man. Thanks for having me, and always good to see you, brother.
Good to see you.